Hi everyone, I'm Zezhong. In this talk, we are presenting interactive data comics as a way to engage data-driven storytelling. This paper was collaborated with Hugo Romain, Fanny Chevalier, Nathalie Henrich, Dave Murray Rust, and Benjamin Bach. Data comics support storytelling by making use of people's familiarity in reading and understanding comics to communicate compelling data-driven stories. Compared to more open-ended infographics, data comics support understanding of complex information by breaking down the complexity of stories into smaller chunks and integrating visualizations and text. They have been used in multiple domains such as telling stories about temporal networks, presenting statistical analysis, and teaching people to decode novel data visualizations. So far, data comics encountered in the wild and research are mostly static. A major advantage of static data comic compared to other storytelling mediums is static data comics don't require programming or animation skills, making them more approachable for wide audiences of creators. What about adding interactions? What we often do with data visualization is we test alternatives, we explore information on demand. Essentially, we try to connect ourselves with the data. This active exploration can be hard with static data comics. Interactivity in storytelling enables the viewer to drill into the parts of a story to access additional information, such as context or explanations, or to provide their own version of the story for audiences to explore data. Comic artists have already experimented with interactivity in creative ways, such as physical interactive comics that drive the audience to different branches. To show what choices are possible and compare the different results. Following the panel where the reader is currently at. Navigate an infinite canvas or linking between nested panels to create multiple narrative paths for a personalized story. Branching on a set of secondary panels to get more details on a point. There are many other inspiring examples. We analyzed 33 non-data interactive comics. We focus on the means of interaction trigger, panel content such as the elements, properties, and panel layout like changing orders, adding or removing panels. Then we identified 6 goals that inform the goals of interaction in data comics. This design space informs us how to search for means to make data comics interactive. So, what would interaction add to data comics, and how to create them? For example, let's see this classic data comic. It's a complex story presenting a dynamic network of historic alliances between countries in Europe. Then we sit down and make it interactive. Here, we can drill down from one panel to explore more detail by appending and replacing panels. We can also read the story at different predefined granularities, clicking the version button to switch between short, medium, and long versions. To support navigation, hovering over a country label highlights all occurrences of this element throughout the entire comic. Or we can play a trading game in the mimetic stock market. See how much I can earn after 5 days. So I buy 100 after day 1 and 900 after day 3. Great! Let's try a longer term investment with 5 months. Opening and interpreting cheat sheet to learn how to read a candlestick bar chart. Jump back to the trading area. Let's put it all on the 2nd month. It keeps rising. Oh no, what happened? That's the beginning of 2020. You know what happened. Then I choose a 5-year investment with the same amount of money. If I started investing at the beginning of 2016, that's the amount I could earn at the end of 2020. So, how can you create an interactive data comic? As a designer, I first try design prototyping tools such as Figma and Adobe XD, in which we can draw graphics as well as building interactive prototypes. You can connect an element to trigger an interaction to jump to another view. And 1 week later, this is what my workspace looks like. I made another example in another week, and my workspace looks insanely crazy. Yeah, I could try to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are powerful for building all kinds of interactions. But they are less approachable for many designers through their steep learning curve and also require developers significant development time. These approaches are not quite fit for building interactions with data comics. So, how could we simplify the authoring process, also to enable the creation of rich sets of interactions? We introduced ComicScript, which is based on JSON. With ComicScript, you can define interactive operations on static data comics. For example, adding new panels, load different set of panels, input values. Let's take a quick look at how to make a small interactive data comics with ComicScript. There are 3 steps. Step 1. Create panels in traditional graphics editing and visualization creating tools, or digitize hand-drawn sketches. In this example, I'll do a very simple interaction. Click in the bar to view the line chart respectively at the second row. So I export this comic by panels as SVG format and include the ID attribute. Step 2. Store images in a server where we can get a direct URL of the files. For example, we store them in GitHub. Step 3. Define comic layout and interaction in the web editor. The workflow is, first link the image file by direct URL and assign each panel with an ID. It will be used later to refer to this panel. And do the same for all the panels. To specify the layout with ComicScript, the layout is expressed as nested arrays. In this case, the first row we have the price and the units sold. To place them on the canvas, we write the IDs of the 2 panels in an array. Then add interaction. Here we need to load the cells over time when clicking corresponding bars on the chart. So I go to the website under documentation, find the load layout operation and copy the code. Change the element ID to fit this example. Click in element A, the panels showing up. Copy this interaction twice for element B and C. Here we go. We have a simple interactive data comic. There are more examples on the website, also tutorial and documentation for you to start with. This is how we use ComicScript. It's a very novel thing, so what do people do? How do they use interactivity? And can they use our approach? We ran a 2-week creation workshop including a tutorial session and a series of drop-in sessions. With 6 illustrators, designers, and postgraduate computer science students. They create interactive data comics with our tool. We aim to understand the workflow they follow to create interactive data comics and improve ComicScript. The result shows that they can complete their interactive data comics with little to no help from us. Adding interaction in data comics suggests possibilities for a range of scenarios, such as exploration, personalization, and learning data literacy. But ComicScript definitely involved a learning curve. It serves as a conceptual middle ground between traditional interactive prototyping tools and full-fledged programming languages. Compared to interactive prototyping tools, ComicScript facilitates interactions in data and comics. Compared to classic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, ComicScript lowers the complexity of the code, so it lowers the learning curve and saves time for professional developers. Then, what is the next step to improve ComicScript? Participants suggest many extensions to the editor, such as resizing elements in panels, enable nesting and overlaying panels, include more sophisticated animations, and the creation of visualizations, annotations, characters, and data comics design patterns. The difficulty with these extensions is to balance the simplicity versus the power of the language. Another tool that supports interactive data comics authoring is called ToonNote, presented at the Kai conference this year by Dai Kang et al. It enables conversion of the computational notebooks to interactive data comics. To support the creation of interactive data comics is not only about authoring a tool, it largely lies in adjusting the mental model to design them. understand what is possible and what is desirable. Our work is a first step towards understanding what interactions matter most to authors and look into the process they are following when creating them. We are working on graphical user interface for ComicsScript to further lower the effort to create interactive data comics. And finally, the editor is open sourced. We are happy to talk if you have any thoughts about using, improving the editor, or running workshops. Thanks for watching. I'm happy to take any suggestions or questions.